Joining us now, Glenn Davis, House of Delegates member in Virginia Beach. And he's going to be up for re-election 2019. Got a lot going on there. Ran for lieutenant governor 2017, finished third. Saved him the trouble of losing to Justin Fairfax, which he would have done because he has an R by his name. In an environment right now in Virginia where no Republicans can win statewide, so you can forget that. But they can still keep the House of Delegates and keep Kirk Cox with the gavel if they work hard and make some sense. And he's joining us now, Mr. Common Sense himself, Glenn Davis, often a guest host on the John Frederick Show. Hey, Glenn, Happy New Year. Good to have you, man.
Happy New Year, and good morning, John.
Hey, Glenn, so I'm thinking Glenn Davis Congress 2020 because you have to get reelected. But what do you think?
I can officially say that is not happening.
Why?
And so, John, I like to get things done. One of 11 on Virginia City Council years ago. Everyone's involved. You can actually get things done. You can make a difference. Up here in the General Assembly, one of 100 in the House of Delegates, and a little harder to kind of get your voice heard. But you kind of hit that stride after a couple of years, and you can make a difference. And I can point to a number of things where I've changed people's lives. One of 435, John, a lot harder. I'm not sure whether I'd jump out the window or whether I'd be pushed out the window. But I don't think it would be something that I would enjoy. I enjoy serving when I can make a difference, and Congress is not the place where I think things are getting done right now.
Well, I understand you're an executive, you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you built a company, you're accustomed to making a difference and making decisions. And it's very tough to go to Congress, especially, like you say, you're one of 435, and so it's a little bit different. So can I take it as an official statement that you will not be running for Congress in 2020?
Oh, yes, you can take that to the bank.
All right, Davis, out.
And if you have any hesitation, call Shelley, and she'll reconfirm it. And I'm not quite sure whether she's more adamant of not having another long election that year or I am, but yeah, no, it won't be happening.
All right, Glenn Davis, not running for Congress 2020. Do you have a candidate yet?
I'm waiting to see kind of how things are shaking out. There's a lot of names being thrown around, John. We don't know what Scott Taylor may or may not be wanting to do next. Ben Loyola, we've all talked about. I think Chris Daly's name has been thrown around. All great candidates. I think we need to see kind of who wants to do it. I think there's a lot of dynamics that are shifting right now.
All right, forget Scott Taylor. He's tarnished. Not going to happen. I wouldn't back him because I don't think he could win based on what happened in the last campaign. And I like Scott, and I backed him over Forbes, and I'm a good friend of his, but I don't think he's the best candidate. I hope he becomes ambassador, Qatar in the Middle East that he's been talked about, but I just don't see him as a viable candidate. I just don't think he can win based on that nonsense that happened with those ballots, so I'm not sure that makes any sense. Loyola is like, he's running for everything. I don't see that. Here's the guy. You want the guy to watch? Mieres. Jason Mieres. That's the guy to watch. I've not talked to him. He might not be interested either, but something new, fresh, different. And Mieres, I think he would be a very formidable candidate, but that's just me, right? And we're a little far out.
I agree with you 100%. I give a lot of credit to Jason. That seat came open right after Jason got elected to the House of Delegates. The theory all along had been that Scott Ridgel probably would have stayed a little longer. Jason would have run for that seat. I think a lot of people wanted Jason to run for that seat, but Jason said, Glenn, I just got elected to the House. I can't do that to those who just, elected me. I'm going to stay here. And I respect Jason a tremendous amount for that decision, but there's no doubt that not only would he make a great candidate and I believe would win, he'd also make one heck of a congressman. So I agree with you 100%.
All right, so I'm predicting Mieres runs. And I think he's going to be he might be the most formidable candidate, not taking anything away from the Stollies because they have a machine, no question. And Chris Stolly's a good guy, and that will be a tough decision for me to make in that primary. If they both ran, may the best person win. But I think Jason Mieres is going to be a very, very formidable candidate if he chooses to get in. We're with Glenn Davis, House of Delegates member, Virginia Beach. Glenn, tell us about your race for re-election coming up in November. 2 years ago, We got a false, what was it? Whoever was doing the vote counting, what was that, VPAP that we were on?
Yep.
Screwed it up and said you were losing when you were winning. They simply put the numbers in wrong, and everybody had a panic attack. How does your re-election look for 2019?
Well, and actually, in fairness to VPAP, it wasn't their fault. It was actually a reversal in numbers at the Virginia Beach City level off one of the precincts where they left off the 8 of 840. So we at the end of the night, it looked like we had actually lost, and instead we actually won by about 700 and some votes. So it wasn't quite VPAP's fault, but yes, it did give all of us a little bit of a heart attack there for a few minutes. This year, John, look, I think I've done a really good job representing the people I was elected to represent. I know I've made a difference in a number of people's lives. Everything from helping to continue pushing this legislation so your doctors cannot be as easily overridden on their suggested treatments, by your insurance company. We've gotten a lot of good tax policies in place to help small businesses since I've been elected. Just recently, I promised 400 jobs to Danville when I was going around the state for lieutenant governor, and to save some jobs in Norfolk. And about 2 months ago, I was out in Danville as we cut the ribbon on 400 new jobs, a 50,000 square foot building that I had promised I would help bring to that area, and at the same time protected thousands of jobs in Norfolk, which I have workers at that company in my district and all over Virginia Beach. I don't sit back and just hit the red or green button. Like you said, I'm an entrepreneur. I like to get things done. And I think the least important part of what I do, or least impactful at times, is actually pushing a button. I like to get out there and get my hands dirty, figure out how we can actually create change. And sometimes it's easier to do when I'm not sitting down at a desk. So I think we're going to do very well, but as you know, we're not going to take anything for granted. A lot of that was done 2 years ago, and we went from 66 to 51 in the House. So no one's taking anything for granted this year.
Well, Glenn, you never take anything for granted. I know you're going to work very hard. Let's get into some specific legislation that is going on beyond some of the things that you want to get done. We're with Republican House of Delegates member Glenn Davis. Today, I think there's a bill coming up in the Senate, got out of committee for a $15 minimum wage that's going to make its way to the House. I expect that to pass the Senate, passed out of committee. When that gets to the House, is Glenn Davis in favor of that or opposed, and why?
Oh, John, I've been as vocal as I can be about a $15 minimum wage. I've got a number of YouTube videos out there explaining a number of things. All that does is actually take away jobs from those that need it most. Those that are really just trying to get by, also the stay-at-home moms, as well as just, the military spouses that come back to the area, as well as those, in high school and college that are, with that first job. I've always said that, technology has gotten to the point where it can replace labor, and the more you raise the cost of labor, the more technology has a chance to replace it. And that's what we've seen in McDonald's. If anyone's been in a Wawa or a McDonald's recently, and they've seen those cash registers that take the order, and all you do is you basically go pick it up. They know exactly what I'm talking about. So I think wages do need to go up, but I think the market is in the process of doing that. As there's more jobs created, there's a higher demand on labor. When there's when demand exceeds supply, prices go up for that labor. So that's the way you increase the labor. You increase the demand for labor. You don't artificially raise the wage.
So would you be in favor of a compromise, like $10? Because to say that government shouldn't be involved in setting a minimum wage, well, we do. And right now, honestly, Glenn, if people are paid $7.25, if the minimum wage was $6, companies would pay them that. So, that's reality. Are you in favor of a compromise? Could you see $10, or you're just not in favor of anything?
What I'd like to have a discussion about, John, which has not been had, is we need to look at who really gets impacted by an increase in the minimum wage and talk about maybe a bifurcation there. So I'll give you an example. Going over to a Walmart, a Starbucks, pick some of these places, and many of them have already had the $15 minimum wage kind of put inside their company, right? And they're large enough; they've got the ability to do it. But you take that small company, the company that is operating inside of someone's home, that's getting ready to come out of the house or getting ready to hire that first employee. There's a big difference between $7, $8, $9 an hour and $15 an hour. John, I can tell you, when I first started my company in that one-bedroom apartment, when I moved out, I don't know what minimum wage was back then. It may have been $6 and change, but my first employee was the receptionist, and I paid $9 an hour because I knew the quality I wanted. I knew the quality I needed, right? So, but if it had been much more, I wouldn't be able to hire an employee at all. So we need to look at it and say there are a lot of companies out there that probably could afford to pay more. But at the same time, there are other startup companies that they need additional labor inside their company, and they're willing to pay what they can afford, but they can't afford double, John. So I think that's the discussion we need to have. It's not so much of do you have one, do you not have one. It's, do we talk about which entities, if you're going to talk about having a minimum wage, which one it impacts and which ones maybe get an exclusion because they're still trying to get off the ground.
Okay. I hear what you're saying, right? I happen to think that going from 7 to 15 is just too big of a step. I think there should be an intermediate there. But you're right. I mean, in a tight job market where there's more jobs than there are employees, certainly wages are going to go up by virtue of supply and demand. So I agree with you on that. Let's get to a couple more issues. Equal Rights Amendment coming to the House, passed the Senate. Where do you stand and why?
Boy, so John, I'm still working through that one. So, I'm a dollars and cents guy. I love black and white, and unfortunately, this isn't one of those issues. And for me, it's a perception issue. I do not want, if it fails, I do not want any young ladies around the state to think that they're not equal in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Conversely, if it passes, I don't want any young ladies around the Commonwealth of Virginia thinking they're equal solely because General Assembly or some governmental body said they were. Women are equal to men. They can do things. Well, I'll tell you a story I've shared a couple of times, happened probably 10 years ago or so, but I was shooting pool with some, guy buddies of mine, and we were finishing up, and there was a younger crowd of young men and ladies next to us, and I have a pretty good game of pool I shoot, and a couple of guys wanted to play me, and I beat them, and then this young lady came up, she wanted to play, and we did, and at one point she beat me, and the guys were teasing me that, I just got beat by a girl, and I said, look, you need to understand something. Unless you're a world-class CEO or world-class athlete, you're going to go through your whole life knowing everything you ever do in life, there's women that can do it better than you. And their head just jaw dropped, head spun around, and young lady's got a kick out of that. But that's the thing. So for me, we've got to make sure that what comes out of this is an understanding that women always should be, always have been equal to men. But at the same time, it needs to be done in a manner that doesn't set the wrong perception, and additionally doesn't impact Title IX like with what happened in Massachusetts. If you've been paying attention to the I think it was 2014 with the Supreme Court case up there that put 2 ice hockey players on a women's field hockey team. They won state, but even though the girls playing said it was a safety issue at that point. So still, not being an attorney, John, you can't imagine the number of case law I've been reading on this just to try to get my head wrapped around this thing. But I've had great conversations with people on both sides of the aisle about it.
So you're undecided?
I am. It's this is one of those where a whole bunch of legal things get impacted, and I can tell you I'm over 100 pages deep in legal opinions and case stuff. Like I said, most recently the thing that came out of Massachusetts.
Glenn Davis, ambivalent right now on ERA, haven't made a decision on that. We talked about the minimum wage. There's a bill in the House of Delegates right now, co-sponsored with Linwood Lewis, State Senator, Democrat, bipartisan, Eastern Shore, and our good friend Barry Knight, House of Delegates member of Chesapeake, which will put the Pamunkey tribe, Indian tribe, on level playing field with commercial interest to build a casino in Norfolk, Virginia. Right now they're getting screwed because they're an Indian reservation. They have to go through so many more federal loopholes to get the casino. It's like a multi-year process, and they're going to be behind those that want to just build it that are commercial interest. This bill putting it on an even playing field, do you favor it or not Why or why not?
Well, here's the thing, John. It doesn't just put it on a level playing field. The Pamunkey Indians have offered to come to the table with that and do a revenue share on Class 3 gaming. So kind of table game stuff like that in the casinos. If we do not come to the table with them on this, they eventually will get it, and there would not be any revenue share with the Commonwealth to the extent that they're offering now. So that's the thing. They're going to get the casino whether we do something or not. It's just we want to come to the table, help them out, and have a larger revenue share.
Okay, so let me get this straight. They're going to get a casino one way or the other. So if it's longer and delayed and you don't go through with the bill being proposed by Senator Linwood Lewis, Democrat, Republican Barry Knight, then eventually they're going to get the casino anyway, but there'll be no revenue share back to Virginia. If you go with their bill, you're going to get the revenue share, which would benefit the Commonwealth. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, with much more of a partnership on the revenue share. I mean, the fact of the matter is we can't stop the casino coming. As long as they've fished or hunted or been on Norfolk land, which they are in the process of proving, they can put a casino there, and the state can't do anything about it. So by coming together and working with them to facilitate the process through Barry's bill, they are negotiating the revenue share on games that they just can't have out of the gate. So I think that's the best thing for the Commonwealth, and it starts building a good partnership between the Commonwealth and the Pamunkey Indians, which we're gonna be working with for decades to come.
Tell you what, you're always so knowledgeable on this stuff. I mean, to me, this is the biggest no-brainer bill in the General Assembly. Right? Let's get a deal done and let the chips fall where they may. And this argument about, well, then it's going to affect the commercial legislation, put 3 casinos in Danville, Bristol, and Portsmouth. That is such malarkey because if you go to Las Vegas, there's 15 of them a block. If you go to Dover, Delaware, there's Harrington, which is 10 miles down the road. You go to Maryland MGM, there's another casino 15 miles up the BW Expressway. So this idea that you can only have one casino in one area is ridiculous anyway. And I'm in favor of this, and sounds like you've done your homework on it. I know you got to take off. You only got a minute. Glenn Davis, your number one legislative objective, 2019 Virginia General Assembly, what is it?
As far as my bills go,
yes.
A blockchain. So we've got a blockchain bill to speed up healthcare credentialing so doctors can be credentialed quicker to start helping their patients across the Commonwealth, put more providers inside the hospitals and other facilities quicker. It'll take the process from 90-plus days to, hopefully less than 30. We're actually going to committee with that today, and if we do that, we'll do proof of concept over the summer and probably be the first state in the nation to roll out blockchain or keeping healthcare credentialing on blockchains for efficiency and security. So that's what we're pushing.
All right. Glenn Davis, makes a lot of sense. You're always on top of things. Always good to have you on. John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America.